This is Texas News Now, sponsored by Germania Insurance.
I'm Cynthia Aguirre, and these are your headlines for North Texas. We begin with the problem creating a backlog for ICE detainees in Texas. There are thousands being held in the state, but not enough judges to hear the cases. It's leading to long waits in detention centers and questions left unanswered. Senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez spoke with attorneys to show just how deep the impact goes.
You may not notice them, but planes like this one are landing regularly at Love Field. They are ICE flights carrying detainees in federal custody. WFAA recently captured footage of one. Immigration attorneys say it's all part of a growing deportation system.
Rebecca, what we're seeing is a mass deportation machine that is really impacting Texans by a disproportionate number.
According to TRACK, a nonpartisan research group that analyzes ICE data, there are more than 68,000 detainees across the U.S. Nearly 19,000 of them are here in Texas.
We're not seeing raids in Texas, but we are seeing a focus on driving while undocumented violations. And that's what nabbed up poor Omar.
He's talking about Omar Salazar. He's an SMU graduate who was brought to the U.S. by his parents when he was 11 years old. In September, he was pulled over by Lubbock police for an illegal lane change. The officer called ICE, and he's been at the Blue Bonnet detention facility since then.
Omar, I would say, is one of the best that our country has to offer. And what we're seeing right now is that our best are being detained for 7 months.
Omar is married to a U.S. citizen, owns an artificial intelligence company, and has no criminal history. According to ICE's own data, about 75% of people currently in detention have no criminal record.
So many people are wondering, gosh, if they can deport Omar, they can deport anyone.
ICE says its mission is to enforce federal immigration laws and protect public safety and national security, and that people in the country without legal status can still be subject to detention and removal under the law. But immigration attorneys say with so many people in detention, the courts are getting more backlogged. According to the Executive Office for Immigration Review, across Texas, there are about 400,000 pending cases, with only about 100 judges statewide.
The courts and the judges have just not been able to get through the cases as quickly as the people who are being detained.
In 7 months, Omar Salazar has had 3 different judges hear his case. His final hearing was in February, and still there hasn't been a ruling. So he sits in detention, wondering if he will stay in this country he grew up in or deported to Mexico.
We believe the judges are overworked, and we're not suggesting that they're not doing their jobs. They're just dealing with an unprecedented number of detentions and their non-detained docket also.
Planes keep landing, cases keep piling up, and people like Omar remain trapped in a system struggling to keep up. In Dallas, I'm Rebecca Lopez.
A new rule took effect Tuesday banning smokable hemp in Texas. Some business owners just told Richard Solomon it's stringent enough to shut them down.
You're looking for flour, it's all gone.
Customers walked in looking for what they've always bought.
All gone. Yesterday was the last day.
But found out in real time, it's gone.
Can't believe this is happening.
I know.
At Indo Dispensary and Wellness in Plano, owners Maddie and Jade are now having that same conversation.
It just happened very fast.
A new Texas law forced them to pull most of their products off the shelves.
Just looking at it right now, it's a little upsetting. It's been a rough morning.
It bans most smokable hemp products, like THC flower, pre-rolls, and many products that make up the bulk of their business. Yesterday, the two made $7,000 in sales. So far today, barely $50.
80% of our revenue. So our income was based on 85% of what just got banned. Yes.
So now they're being forced to pivot, not just with what they sell, but what their business even is. Instead of just cannabis products, they'll use the space for live music, events, and community gatherings. Anything to stay afloat.
It's just going to slow people down from continuing their business.
They're intoxicating products.
Supporters of the law, like Betsy Jones with Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth, says this closes a loophole that allowed intoxicating products to be sold with little oversight.
It's a billion-dollar industry, but the people who are profiting from this industry are the ones who should be paying for the costs.
No disposables, no wax.
And back at the shop, the impact is immediate. Customers walking in expecting one thing, leaving with nothing.
I'm sorry, guys.
Because having to turn away their customers.
Take care. Thank you, guys.
is something they're still trying to get used to. In Plano, I'm Richard Solomon.
Tuesday was Cesar Chavez Day, but instead of the celebrations we would have expected a few weeks ago, the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Congress held a press conference demanding Cesar Chavez's name be stripped from the city. The once beloved civil rights icon is accused of sexually abusing women and children over several years. Multiple victims have come forward with evidence, including his United Farm Workers Union co-founder Dolores Huerta. The Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber says changes need to be made now because staying silent means the pain of victims matters more than the comfort of the powerful.
We're asking that his name be removed from everything that has his name on it. Every space, every street and building that carries his name must now carry the name of someone else or something else, but that honors our community.
For years today, March 31st, was observed throughout the state as Cesar Chavez Day. Today was his birthday. Governor Abbott says the state will no longer observe it. He plans to remove it from state law. The co-founder of South Lake's Gateway Church has been officially released after serving 6 months in jail. Robert Morris pleaded guilty to 5 felony counts of child sexual abuse after Cindy Clemishire came forward to say Morris abused her when she was 12 years old. Tiffany Liu just spoke with Clemishire to get her reaction to the pastor's release.
6 months
Well, of course, I feel like it's too short.
is a fraction of the pain Cindy Clemishire has lived with
Back in 1982.
since she was 12 years old.
While it's not enough, I don't know that there could ever be enough time served for stealing a child's life.
Former Gateway Church pastor Robert Morris is out of prison after serving 6 months for 5 felony child sex abuse charges.
I think we've all been anticipating it.
He pleaded guilty in October and will remain on probation for 9.5 years.
It was the alternative to going through years of a trial, potentially.
It's time and energy Cindy now spends protecting survivors and reforming the law.
I do have to revisit it in a more open way.
In a statement from Morris, he asks for forgiveness and writes in part, "I want to speak directly to Cindy Clemishire and her family. What I did to Cindy decades ago was wrong. There is no other word for it, and there is no excuse for it. I am deeply sorry."
Would you ever speak directly to him again?
I probably would. There's always opportunity.
Cindy questions his sincerity.
And while he took responsibility when he pleaded guilty, there was no apology in person right then and there.
She says it was 4.5 years of physical abuse and to this day, decades of mental trauma.
How have you managed to maintain your faith through all this?
This might make me emotional, but I have to give credit to my dad and my mom for teaching us to trust in Jesus, not in a religion or a church or someone behind the pulpit.
Cindy Clemishire is taking her story beyond survival. I'm Tiffany Liu.
And those are your headlines from North Texas.
Let's take a look at today's headlines from across Houston. Hello, I'm Len Cannon. Police have arrested a man for his alleged role in the infamous Texas Killing Fields murders. This is video of James Dolphs Elmore Jr. being escorted by the Galveston County Sheriff after his indictment by a Galveston County grand jury. He's charged with manslaughter and tampering with evidence in the deaths of Laura Miller and an additional tampering with evidence charge in the death of Audrey Cook. Prosecutors say those indictments come after a renewed investigation into the killing fields, where the bodies of several women were found in a field near League City off I-45. This was back in the 1980s and 90s. Prosecutors tried to seek grand jury indictments against longtime suspect Clyde Hedrick for his role in the murders of Cook and Miller, but he died before the grand jury presentation. Now this story out of East Harris County. A 5-year-old boy dies after being found in a neighbor's pool this week. Deputies say he wandered away from home. Maria Aguilera has more.
Heavy police presence and crime scene tape surrounded this East Harris County neighborhood. What started as a call of a child wandering ended with a 5-year-old boy found in a neighbor's pool.
We come to you with some heartbreaking information.
Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez says the child was last seen playing outside alone. when his mother lost sight of him midday. She called for help around 12:20 and a search started immediately, including a drone in the air. About an hour later, that drone spotted a child in a pool roughly 2 blocks away.
One of our deputies jumped in the water, pulled out the child. Precinct 3 deputies also arrived here and assisted with some of the compression, so it was a mad just rush to try to do everything they could to save this precious child. To no avail, the child was pronounced deceased.
Investigators believe the boy somehow scaled a privacy fence and ended up in the water. Later, he was pronounced dead. I spoke with neighbors off camera who were shaken, telling me they couldn't believe the child was wandering the streets, and say the discovery in that backyard is something that will stay with them. Tonight, the sheriff calling this a tragic reminder.
A tragic situation, and just a reminder of the importance of child safety, water safety, and how quickly these things could happen. And so our hearts go out to, again, the family as they navigate this loss, to our deputies that are obviously shaken.
That was Maria Aguilera reporting. This week, the FBI releasing new surveillance video of a man they're calling the Sub-Zero suspect, wanted for robbing 3 banks in the last 5 years. And tonight, the reward has been increased because investigators say he's becoming more brazen. Annie Ruiz has more on the efforts to find this guy.
It was in broad daylight when the man investigators have dubbed as the Sub-Zero suspect walks into a frost bank in the city's southeast side. Once inside, investigators say that's when things turn dangerous.
And he hits the frost bank on Alameda Genoa Road. He goes in, right? He has a gun, points it to into the faces of tellers.
The suspect was wearing a lime green ski mask, forces everyone to get on the ground.
Almost a takeover style bank robbery. And this level of violence, we're not going to tolerate it.
But the FBI says this is not the first time he robbed a bank. In fact, they believe he's tied to 2 other bank robberies, both in 2021, where he also pulled out a weapon. The first on Main Street in Houston, the second in Conroe. The
Sub-Zero subject has only robbed, in 2021 in October, again in 2021 in December, and then a pause, and now he's back at it in January of this year. That's unusual.
And why the Sub-Zero?
He struck this year in 2026 right around that cold freeze that we had in January. It just happened coincidentally that he also robbed a frost bank, and then looking back at 2021, all of the banks that he has robbed are frost banks.
That's why investigators are asking you to take a closer look not just at the video, but at prior surveillance photos.
Very distinctive kind of face, right? His eyebrows, as well as kind of his thin build. We think that somebody knows him.
They hope that someone watching tonight can help bring him in before he strikes again.
These are innocent Houston citizens who have their lives shattered by, this violent robbery, and this individual's still out there, and that means he's a threat to our community.
Annie Ruiz reporting on the Sub-Zero suspect. This week, we're hearing from a dog boarding and grooming company in League City after one of their former groomers was arrested for animal cruelty. Investigators say a dog in the groomer's care was strangled to death by a tight collar. Orko Manna has more on what police say happened here.
League City police tell me that the dog's owners had used Pet Suite's boarding services before, but brought the dog here for a first-time grooming appointment on January 30th. Investigators say that's when he died. Police shared this photo of the dog, a 5-year-old golden doodle named Lincoln. Detectives say while Lincoln was under the care of dog groomer Lisa Fund on January 30th at Pet Suites League City, Lincoln was attached to the grooming station with a cinch collar, which is specially designed to tighten. Police tell me surveillance video shows Lincoln spinning around multiple times, causing the collar to get tighter and tighter, and at one point Lincoln came off the grooming table and appeared to be hanging by the neck for a moment. Police say Fund did not seem too concerned.
It shows that he was picked up by the collar, not necessarily by his body, and brought back on the table. And then it seemed like his body became lifeless at that time.
After a police investigation, Fund was just arrested and charged with the 3rd-degree felony of cruelty to a non-livestock animal. I went into the Pet Suites League City location to ask about what happened, and they sent us a statement saying in part, quote, "The actions taken by the groomer were a direct violation of our safety protocols and do not reflect the values of our team. The involved individual is no longer employed with Pet Suites." Fund was booked into the Galveston County Jail on a $50,000 bond. She's expected to be in court tomorrow. Reporting from League City, Orko Manna, KHOU 11 News.
Now to some happy news. Sports fans can't stop talking about the announcement the WNBA is returning to Houston. Ron Trevino has more on what the return of the Comets could mean for Houston's economy.
Guadalajara restaurant in the area of downtown known as Green Street. They're looking forward to even busier days ahead for the World Cup and for more basketball. How excited are you for the WNBA returning to Houston?
Pretty excited here. We've been having, Melo's basketball team for a while. I think it's pretty good that we can finally get into a women's basketball team. It's been a while.
Cheryl Swoops, Houston Comets legend. Her name is here on the Houston Sports Walk of Fame, along with a few other Comets legends. You've got Cynthia Cooper, Van Chancellor. Now, businesses here are hoping the new version of the Comets will bring more legends and, well, more customers. The Comets brought us 4 championship trophies, but they last played here in 2008. Downtown businesses say it'll be fabulous to see them return. Matt Reagan is the managing director of the company redeveloping the Green Street area.
Both, with an NBA team that's popular and a WNBA team that we think is going to be very popular, it's going to mean just stretching out that economic impact throughout almost the entire year. It's huge for us.
Don't just take his word for it. There could be a huge economic impact. To hear it from a Rice professor whose job it is to know about these things, Professor Carrie Potter does lectures on sports finance.
The last team that launched in the WNBA was the Golden State Valkyries last year, and they had over $70 million of revenue generation. So those are the types of numbers we're looking at.
Music to the ears of business owners, people looking for jobs, and, of course, Houston sports fans.
Ron Trevino reporting on the return of the Comets. That is a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Len Cannon.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.
Hello, it's Bill Taylor with Texas News Now weather. Going to start with the X-ray of the atmosphere, water vapor, and show you that things are beginning to slowly change for the state of Texas. All the action has been to the north and west, and you can still see that to be the case through the west. And then take a look at the Great Lakes region from Chicago. Big storms rolling through. But for us, what we're going to start seeing is a bit of a pattern shift as high pressure finally moves out, and some of this rain and a bit of more of a stormy pattern begins to move in our direction. So we go to the upper level wind pattern, and you'll see that as things exit out to the east, we really start to see some action down to the south. In fact, we've got 2 fronts that'll be sliding through before Easter. Now, we've had some fronts already. This is just the beginning stages of spring. But, with late winter and early spring fronts, we had high pressure in control. And as long as you have that high dome over the state of Texas, that's a cap of warm air aloft. And it's the upper level high pressure cooker, I like to call it, because it really inhibits any kind of the convective process. When you go from warm air and it goes up into more warm air, that completely inhibits convection. So with that, you don't see much of a rain chance develop. But look at the pattern shift over the next 10 days as we go dry to even below average precipitation for the east and northeast. But for Texas now, we're looking at average to above average precipitation. In fact, from extreme west Texas down into south central Texas and deep south Texas, pretty good amount of rain expected over the 7 to 10 day forecast. And that's where we need it the most. That could really be hitting the bullseye as we've got exceptional exceptional drought once you go down I-35 and towards the border. And then deep South Texas, look at the amount of real estate under exceptional drought. And then extreme drought all the way up to the state capital, east towards Houston. What's incredible to see, you just don't see this too often, extreme drought on the Texas coast. And we're not alone. I mean, South Texas and the coastal area and the coastal bend should not be in drought, right? I mean, you're right there on the Western Gulf. But look at Florida. Also, very, very unusual to see that much extreme drought and then a huge pocket of exceptional drought for the Sunshine State. I mean, you should be seeing well above average rainfall, but look at this, into the peninsula, that much extreme drought, that is really unusual. All right, so let's take a look at what we expect with these two fronts. First, of course, is coming Wednesday night into Thursday. And this first front, I'll tell you, Wednesday night, we've got a severe weather threat through San Angelo up into Oklahoma. In fact, the Severe Prediction Center's got a 3 out of 5 risk of hail and damaging winds, isolated tornadoes in this storm line right here. So be very weather aware on Wednesday night. San Angelo up through the Red River Valley into DFW for early Thursday. This is the worst case scenario in some cases because it's overnight. I say some cases because at least it's outside of the hours of daytime heating. So you take out an ingredient for these storms to get violent. But in the overnight hours, you're asleep or you're not paying close attention to what's going on with the weather. So please be weather aware late Wednesday, early Thursday in the overnight hours. This is Thursday morning now. As the sun gets up, you can see 6 to 7 a.m. and we're looking at some pretty good storms on the I-35 corridor, sinking down right into Austin and then moving into East Texas by the noon hour into early afternoon hours Thursday. It doesn't appear we see too much develop in deep South Central Texas until probably Friday night, Saturday, and then Saturday night. So here's the prediction and the future radar for Friday night. We expect some pretty heavy rain late night Friday from Del Rio up into the Dallas-Fort Worth area and then pushing into the I-35 corridor by Saturday afternoon. And you can see this line from about Killeen, Waco, and areas east down into San Antonio, and then it really develops as we get this front in on Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. Now, this is what's interesting, too. This longer range model is showing a pretty good rain coverage on Easter Sunday and not letting up. This is Sunday night, 9 p.m., and still looking at significant coverage of rainfall until late Sunday, early Monday, pushing south. But some of the high resolution data is taking it south as early as Sunday morning. All right, temperature-wise, going to stay pretty mild. I mean, unless, of course, you're getting that rainfall and that good cloud cover north wind on Easter Sunday is going to cool temperatures down. But for the most part, temperatures won't be getting too cool. We'll stay above seasonal average as we work our way into Easter weekend. Speaking of, Easter weekend always means a lot more travel, so let's take a look at the nation's airports. Wednesday, it looks like some problem spots around New York. That's about it, really. I mean, it's the highest percentage chance. And then if you look into Thursday, it's looking like Chicago as far as delays go. And then on Good Friday, this will be a good travel day, looking like D.C. is the only spot, as only isolated chances are expected across most of the major cities. Now, if you're going to be on the roads in the great state of Texas, this is important. Let's take a look at the extended forecast as we work our way into Easter weekend. Notice that on Thursday, things are still looking good. Good Friday, we're not looking at rain chances unless you're in Dallas, really. But then on Saturday, that's when we're going to have widespread chances of rain throughout most of the state, from Austin down, or up to Dallas, I should say, even down into Houston. And it looks, of course, like San Antonio, high of 81 on Saturday with the rain. But look at how much cooler it is on Easter Sunday with lingering precipitation for Houston, McAllen, San Antonio early, Corpus Christi most of the day. Highs are again at least 10 to 15 degrees cooler than what we're experiencing now as we get a cooler start to next week. And that start being Easter Sunday with temperatures hovering right around 70 in most cases. For Texas News Now Weather, I'm Bill Taylor.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
I'm Isis Romero, and this is the news in San Antonio. More details have been revealed in the shooting at Hill Country College Prep on Monday. Authorities are releasing information on the weapon used by the alleged shooter. Simone Simpson is following the story.
More than 24 hours after the shooting, the scene is much somber, marked by this memorial left at one of the school's entrances.
There was an initial interview conducted yesterday, so you have two family members that were interviewed pretty thoroughly, I think, by the Rangers. And from what I heard this morning during the debrief, they have been very cooperative.
Comal County Sheriff Mark Reynolds says the two family members interviewed were the boy's grandfather and father. Investigators confirmed the 15-year-old student used a .357 caliber revolver, which was brought to campus from his home, but did not disclose who the gun belongs to. But charges could be a possibility.
We'll most certainly, keep the district attorney's office involved.
The teacher who was shot is still in the hospital. Their identity has not been released. The motive is still under investigation. However, it is believed the student may have been experiencing academic challenges, including failing several classes.
We've gotten that much from some of the faculty at the school, that there may have been some academic challenges going on, and that may be, but that's going to be part of the investigation.
Detectives have executed a search warrant at the student's home where several electronic devices were seized. These items are currently undergoing forensic examination.
I'm sure yesterday was also traumatic for the shooter's parents. So it's a lot to absorb and take in, but we want to make sure what we're collecting evidentiary-wise is for our case, but we owe it to the victim to make sure that we're thorough as well.
The Comal County Sheriff's Office says out of respect for the teacher and her family, they will not be releasing her identity at this time. Reporting from Comal County, I'm Simone Simpson, KENS 5.
Investigators say a burning candle destroyed a family's home on the city's southwest side. Earl Stoudemire has the story.
The couple living at this home right behind me on Sweet Maiden Drive says the fire started from a candle catching a curtain on fire before it reached the ceiling, engulfing the home. The husband says he tried to put out the fire, but the smoke was too much for him and his partner, so they got out and called for help. More than a dozen crews from the San Antonio Fire Department showed up and quickly put out the flames, but the home is a total loss. The couple says they lived here for 3 years with their 3 children who weren't home at the time. No one was hurt in the fire, and the fire department says the cause of the fire hasn't been determined. The American Red Cross is stepping in to help the family start the process of finding a new home. On the southwest side, Earl Stoudemire, KENS 5.
Gathering with loved ones is part of many people's Easter traditions, and as curfews lift at local parks, more people are heading outdoors. But with high fire danger, firefighters say safety must come first. Here's Sue Kalberg.
Take a look at all this damage after neighbors say a campfire got out of control on the Salado Creek Trail and caused all this.
It kind of sounded like fireworks were going off.
Oh, so you actually heard the popping of things burning?
That's correct.
Corey works at the KOA campground near the Frost Bank Center, and on a game night with a packed house less than a mile away, there was this.
That's when we discovered the orange sky and, the 50-foot flames. And
it was a wall of flames on a windy night. Corey and his crew grabbed buckets to douse spot fires that escaped containment.
We're using creek water and pulling it out of Salado Creek and, throwing it on the pop-up fires.
It doesn't take much for those embers to get away from any type of fire that's set.
Days later, on trails in the Almas Basin,
we counted approximately 5 different spots.
Firefighters from Almas Park in San Antonio had to hand carry water into the brush to fight fires caused by campfire embers in the wind.
We did utilize some water cans, but very challenging to get traditional hose lines in this deep into the tree line.
Chief Goodrow says it's everyone's job to be fire wise and alert and to call for help right away.
Call it in, absolutely. Call 911.
Finally, they say if you're bringing Easter baskets, consider bringing an Easter bucket too, because even a little bit of water close at hand might be enough to help keep everyone safe. In East San Antonio, Sue Kelberg, KENS 5.
Preparations are underway for the annual Passion Play on the streets of downtown San Antonio. The annual reenactment will take place this Friday, which is Good Friday. It'll begin at Travis Park and move through downtown to San Fernando Cathedral. The event depicts the suffering and death of Jesus Christ, with local parishioners taking on the roles. The tradition draws thousands of people each year.
For generations, people have joined us to walk with Jesus and to be inspired by the life of Jesus. And we know that his suffering and his death lead to Easter Sunday. So it's a bittersweet moment for us. It's a bittersweet moment for the church. And I welcome and I invite all of San Antonio to join us.
There will be a prayer service at Travis Park starting at 9:30, with the procession starting at 10 in the morning. Officials remind visitors to plan ahead for street closures downtown. Waymo is expanding its presence in San Antonio with service to include rides to and from the airport. Drop-offs will happen directly at the curb outside Terminals A and B. Pickups will happen at the designated rideshare area. Waymo currently has dozens of cars operating across San Antonio, including downtown and at North Star Mall. And there's good news if you're looking to use it soon. The new route is available now. And that's the news in San Antonio.
I'm Mike Gillespie in Corpus Christi, and here's a look at some of what's making news in South Texas. Well, as our city navigates its water crisis, new concerns are emerging about Lake Texana. City Manager Peter Zanoni warns that levels could drop low enough by June to trigger water cuts. Michael Gibson breaks it down.
City Council is being asked to consider a number of issues that city staff are trying to solve, like whether or not people will be able to continue to use car washes around town. City leaders say under a level 1 water emergency, car washes would no longer be allowed to use city water. We asked Councilwoman Carolyn Vaughn about that rule, since council ultimately has the power to change it.
It's got to be whatever is essential, like hospitals, things like that. And so, I mean, is a car wash essential? It's not, and they'll probably shoot me for saying that, but you have to look at the things that are essential.
Another big question, will industry have to cut back too? City leaders say yes, and they're already working through how those reductions would be enforced.
Industry is going to be curtailed too, and there's a lot of conversation around how that happens, because they need some certainty too. They need to understand how they're going to get to whatever number we come up with today. So this whole conversation about how industry is going to get a hall pass is just not true. They're not going to get a hall pass.
City Manager Peter Zanoni says while residents are using less water, large industrial users have not made the same kind of cuts. He says the average household has dropped from about 7,000 gallons a month down to 4,500. But under the city's current plan, that higher number would still be used as the benchmark for surcharges.
Right now, for a residential customer, the plan says 7,000 gallons of water is the normal rate, and anything above 7,000 is $4 more per thousand. So it's not a big price increase, a change.
And for homeowners, restrictions could go even further. Under the drought plan, pools and hot tubs could not be refilled unless it's needed to prevent damage. And when they're not in use, they would have to be completely covered. Michael Gibson, 3 News.
Well, meanwhile, in Orange Grove, officials are saying that the problem is no longer down the road. A city that once believed its water supply would last for decades now says that their primary water source may be shifting sooner than expected. Bill Churchwell has more from Jim Wells County.
At Triple M Ranch, outside of Orange Grove, Bruce Mummy says water is getting harder to find.
This ranch can't survive without water.
He showed me firsthand the impact. His water well, once set at 200 feet, now has to be lowered to 260 feet just to keep pulling water. He drilled a second well for backup, cut his cattle herd, and even let his ponds go dry, trying to conserve every drop.
One cow drinks 20 gallons a day. 20 gallons a day is for a cow. So If you have 10 cows, 10 times 20, 100 gallons just to satisfy their thirst.
He says the problem started just months ago. Around the same time, large-scale groundwater pumping ramped up in the region.
And even the water well service people that came out to drop my well, they said, you're not the only one in this area.
And it's not just ranchers seeing the impact. In Orange Grove, city leaders say their only water source, the Evangeline Goliad Sands Aquifer, is showing warning signs. After the city of Corpus Christi's new western well field came online, Orange Grove recorded its largest drawdown ever.
We saw a 17-foot drop in our aquifer.
City Administrator Todd Wright says while levels partially recovered, the overall trend is declining faster than normal.
400 feet below is where our pump is sitting to suck water out of the Evangeline aquifer.
At the same time, water quality is shifting, with total dissolved solids rising close to federal limits.
So for us to see these drastic drops are very concerning to us.
Wright says what's happening now is especially troubling because long-term plans once projected this aquifer would last decades.
It's a 70-year plan that we were going to be sufficient with our aquifer. So to have these drastic changes definitely sped the timeline up.
For now, officials say the water is still safe to drink, but they've shifted to daily monitoring.
So once we hit 170 foot at water table, that is when we began our stage 1 voluntary drought conditions. As of yesterday, that water level was sitting at 165, so we're only 5 foot away from having to go into our drought contingency plan.
That is Bill Churchwell reporting, and that is a quick look at some of what's making news in South Texas.
Here's your headlines from Southeast Texas. I'm Mark Armstrong. It's been 1 week since the explosion at the Valero refinery in Port Arthur, and residents say they are still dealing with the damage left behind. Neighbors say that blast shook homes across the area, leaving behind cracked walls, broken windows, and growing concerns about structural damage. Some homeowners say the impact's so strong, they're now questioning whether their homes are even safe. Juan Van says the blast caused items to be tossed around his newly renovated home, and he saw cracks in the support beams.
See how this is solid? It was like that all the way down. Now I got gaps going all the way down, all the way around. And then again, all the beams are cracked, every one of them.
Now this all comes as 2 more people have decided to join a class action lawsuit filed by a local attorney. Both men we interviewed here for this story, they said they attended a town hall last week by the law firms, but haven't signed on yet. The lawsuit claims shockwaves from the explosion caused widespread damage, including property loss, injuries, and costly repairs. Well, new hemp regulations, they are set to take effect Tuesday, and they could have major impacts on smoke shops across Southeast Texas. The changes limit THC levels in products and significantly increase licensing fees for businesses. Some business owners say it could force them to shut down. 12 News reporter Daniela Tabuada-Palau, she spoke to local shops and health officials about what this means.
Did I see this coming? Yes. Did I see it coming this way exactly? Not really.
Small businesses are worried for their future following new hemp rules.
The new law, which will begin on March the 31st, would eliminate the smokable hemp products.
Starting Tuesday, any product with more than 0.3% THC must be pulled from shelves. Jacob Epps, manager of High Times, says that's a major hit for some shops.
Out of all the stuff that we sell and out of all the stuff that we have to put away, percentage-wise, it's probably 40 to 50% of our sales.
A loss that could force some small businesses to close. And it's not just product changes, licensing costs are also surging.
For manufacturer's licensing, it's a huge increase. It's going from $258 per license to $10,000 per license. And on the retail registration, that fee is going from $155 to $5,000.
Prices that could really impact the hemp industry.
I think that puts a big dent in the ability for smaller shops to become prominent in the state.
Epps says customers, including veterans, turn to these products for relief, but health officials like Kenneth Coleman with the Beaumont Public Health Department warn that without proper regulation, they can come with serious risks.
Some people experience diarrhea, changes in appetite, tremors, dizziness. So that's some of your most common side effects, but we've seen severe side effects, hallucinations, severe anxiety, loss of consciousness, and dependency.
The Beaumont Health Department will only assist in reporting, but Epps says the new law could possibly do more harm than good.
The law is going to end up effectively giving all of these products and stuff back to the cartels in the streets, unfortunately. So that's going to be not only our hit, but a hit of the communities as well.
Well, Golden Pass LNG, they've started producing liquefied natural gas from its Sabine Pass terminal on Monday, and it marks a major milestone for the company. It also paves the way for Golden Pass to deliver its first cargo, and officials say they're excited to get to work delivering Texas LNG to, quote, power the world. Now, the company plans to begin exporting globally later this year, but it makes you wonder, why are gas prices and energy costs so high when we produce so much of it right here in Southeast Texas? Well, a Gas Buddy expert explains.
The global oil market really doesn't care where the oil is coming from. It cares about the total balance of crude oil. And so, if you take, again, 20% of the world's oil is stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, it doesn't care where it comes from because oil can be moved so much around the world.
And those were your headlines here from Southeast Texas.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
I'm Mark Mullins in Austin. Starting Wednesday, passengers on Allegiant and Frontier Airlines will fly out of a new spot at Austin's airport. The South Terminal, which has housed the two airlines since 2017, is closing at the end of the day. Tuesday was the final day of operations at the South Terminal. Allegiant and Frontier will move to the main Barbara Jordan Terminal. That'll bring all commercial airlines under one roof in Austin. Airport officials say that'll create a more streamlined experience for passengers. The timing of this move is strategic, too.
March is a crazy busy time at the airport. Summer is also really busy, so April presents kind of a not quite a lull, but for us it's a window of opportunity to go ahead and move those operations over to the terminal.
Eventually, crews will tear down the South Terminal to clear space for new taxiways. Construction is already underway. Those will support a new 26-gate concourse opening in a few years. The South Congress Hotel in downtown Austin is closing for renovations, and that's leading to layoffs. A spokesperson for Hyatt Hotels tells us that renovations on the 83-room hotel will start in May and wrap up in early 2027. The entire hotel will close. Only the coffee shop inside will stay open. Several employees shared letters they received with KVUE stating their positions are expected to be eliminated at the end of May. Austin ISD has made its final decision on how school consolidation will affect an historic school in East Austin. The Blackshear Elementary building will close in 2028. Reporter Daniel Gomez tells us what's next for the school.
Blackshear Elementary stands tall in East Austin.
I am an alum of Blackshear. I was here in the 1960s. I want to say 1st through 5th grade, so 1963 through 1968.
Arlene Youngblood,
And so I have fond memories and beautiful ties.
stands proud,
The building is a beautiful building.
and Youngblood is taking a stand.
My thoughts were of anger because there is no fair opportunity for the parents to meet, for the community to meet, for the neighborhood to meet, to say, hey, we need more explanations besides budget cuts and what have you.
Austin ISD sent letters to Blackshear and Oak Springs Elementary School parents, and those parents shared that letter with us, and in it, Superintendent Mateus Segura wrote, construction of a modernized school on the campus of Oak Springs Elementary will continue. Students from both schools will report there in January 2028. Blackshear Elementary will then close permanently. A school that just celebrated 135 years in the community.
I think it's sad for the community.
Lee Dawson Jr.'s daughter went to Blackshear. He feels blindsided by Austin ISD's decision to close the building he says means a lot to the Black community.
I would like for them to be transparent with us and be upfront. Let us know what you're going to do.
In the meantime,
I don't think it's over, but there needs to be an opportunity, and folks need to stand up and fight.
young blood will continue to take a stand. Daniel Gomez, KVUE News.
Hayes CISD leaders approved the budget for the next school year and gave the green light to cut dozens of jobs in order to save money. That adds up to more than $12 million in cuts to next year's budget. The district plans layoffs, eliminating or changing 125 positions and suspending stipends for 970 employees. The biggest change comes from increasing class sizes across all grades, which would eliminate 63 teaching positions. District leaders say vacant positions will likely not be replaced. Some teachers spoke at Monday night's meeting.
We're also real concerned about our class sizes. I personally teach 5th grade at Tobias, and just imagine 27 11-year-olds in one classroom, because that's what my reality is going to be.
Fine arts, library services, athletics, and social services programs would also face reductions. District administrators say the cuts are necessary since costs keep climbing and state funding is not keeping up. The deadline has passed for families to sign up for the Texas Education Freedom Account program. The program will allow families to use taxpayer dollars to pay for their child's private school tuition or educational expenses. But one group is making a last-minute push to get the deadline extended again. Here's reporter Daniel Perot.
In the final hours to apply for the state's new program to help pay for private school tuition, a Hail Mary to buy more time.
There are still schools that may not have been listed, and also schools that are not appearing on the school finder.
Eric Hudson is the attorney representing Islamic private schools and Muslim families who sued the state over their exclusion. In the last 2 weeks, more than a dozen Islamic schools have been approved, but Hudson says the delay has skewed the makeup of the applicant pool and left some families with little time to apply.
There is some confusion, I think, amongst parents and also the schools themselves about whether the additions have been completed.
In a motion filed Monday, lawyers for the schools and families are asking the court to extend the deadline to April 14th and block the state from beginning the lottery process to determine who gets in until after the next hearing in the case on April 24th.
If they go forward with the lottery, we're going to be baking a cake that can't be unbaked.
The lottery will prioritize students with disabilities and those from low-income families. Less than half of the more than 256,000 students who applied are expected to get into the program in year one. The state has attributed delays to snags related to reviewing accreditations, arguing it would be unfair to extend the deadline because it would disrupt the ability of teachers and parents to make education plans for next school year.
What we understand from the evidence that was put on by the state at the prior TRO hearing is they had no evidence of actual harm.
In his motion, Hudson cited a recent letter from the Comptroller's office to Attorney General Ken Paxton, asking to block a Houston school, which is approved to be part of the program, from operating in Texas, alleging it has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. The state has not provided any evidence in court to back that up. Hudson says he's concerned the state may accept the Islamic schools now, but exclude them later.
I think Kelly Hancock's letter is evidence that he might just try to do that.
The Comptroller's office has said it will notify families if they are accepted into the program early next month. Families in the program are expected to have access to state funding in July. The Texas Comptroller's office is releasing some data about who has applied for Texas Education Freedom accounts. As of Sunday, more than 256,000 people had applied. 23% of them want to use the fund for homeschooling or other education resources. 77% were applying for private school. 36% of applicants had a household income that was less than 200% of the federal poverty level, which is around $64,000 for a family of four. 28% made more than 500% of the federal poverty level, which is $160,000 for a family of four, and the rest of the applicants make somewhere in between. That's all for us here in Austin. We hope you have a great day.
I'm Bailey Bates. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. Drought plans are popping up across the region due to dry conditions, and residents are being asked to voluntarily reduce water usage. The Brazos River Authority declared a stage drought 1 watch for most of our area, which prompted Fort Hood and Belton to activate a stage 1 drought plan. And Coppers Cove continues in its stage 1, but that's been in effect since last year. The stage 1 plan is used to bring awareness and calling for a voluntary conservation effort, but it's not a mandatory reduction. The Brazos River Authority says we've had 4 to 8 inches less rain than normal over the last 4 months in Central Texas. The overall reservoir system is still about 89% full, but they are asking residents to voluntarily cut water use by 5% before conditions can get worse. Rain chances are happening this week, and they could help some areas get out of the drought watch. Water Services Manager Aaron Abel shares that rain helps in some stages. First, the ground has to soak it up because the soil is so dry right now. After that, additional rain begins flowing into creeks and rivers, which then feeds the reservoirs like Belton Lake and Stillhouse Hollow Lake.
Yeah, spring is the rainiest part of the year, and so hopefully we can get some rainfall and water in those streams and creeks and rivers to see the lake levels increase. But until then, we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
While this week's rain will help, the reservoirs need repeated soaking rains over time before people see a noticeable improvement. And more news, the Human and Animal Services Coalition in Temple is launching an initiative to install outdoor microchip scanning stations across Temple. They're free self-serve kiosk available to anyone 24 hours a day. Our Julietta Jackson shows us how it will work.
Microchips have been one of the best tools to bring pets home. But until now, scanning for one has meant waiting for a vet clinic to open or flagging down animal control. The Human and Animal Services Coalition in Temple wants to change that by installing a network of outdoor microchip scanning stations across the area.
We want to start up here at the base of the neck and are slowly all of his body parts essentially back and forth, making sure the chip didn't migrate to a leg or an underside of his body, the back end. We want to make sure we scan him thoroughly.
Amy Dixon says that number shows the chip's manufacturer, not the owner directly. From there, a finder would contact that manufacturer, who then connects them with the pet's family.
As many as are microchipped and their information on their chip is kept up to date. So if pet parents aren't keeping their information up to date, or if they get their pet chipped but they never bother to register the information, essentially not much help.
Dixon says these scanning stations would give people more options.
Helps pets be reunited with their families quickly and avoids the stress of having to go to the animal shelter.
Each station costs roughly $600. The group already has 2 individual sponsors and plans to have their first station up and running outside their clinic in Temple by the end of April. From there, they want to spread stations across neighborhoods.
Initiative impact we can make in the community that keeps pets out of the shelter, that's one of the big things we're trying to do.
To learn more about the microchip stations and how you can help, go to kcentv.com. But it does sound like a very neat resource that would be great for our community here. Those are your headlines from Central Texas.
Hi, I'm Ayana Aird, and here's what's making headlines across East Texas. Today, your SNAP benefits might not stretch out as far as they used to, and that means some of the sweet treats and drinks some have enjoyed in the past will now be off limits. CBS 19's Renee Estrada has more on how these changes will affect your households.
The new SNAP rule, which goes into effect on Wednesday, will now ban the purchase of candy, soda, sports drinks, and other sugar-sweetened beverages and food. This change comes after Senate Bill 379 passed during the 89th Texas Legislature, which aims to limit less healthy options and encourage the purchase of more nutritious foods.
Starting April 1st, so Wednesday, any candy and soft drinks will no longer be able to be purchased with SNAP benefits.
While the list of restricted items grows, including candy bars, nuts, raisins, or fruits that are canned, glazed, or chocolate-coated, officials are emphasizing that eligibility for SNAP benefits remains unchanged.
Nothing to do with eligibility. They do not change who is eligible. They don't require people to reapply. Like I said, there's no penalty if the retailer gets it wrong and allows you to buy some candy that you shouldn't.
But officials still warn that navigating these changes may take some time to adjust, and families will now need to pay closer attention to nutrition labels and know what foods and drinks qualify.
It'll be confusing at first, like any change. Shoppers are going to have to pay more attention to labels, look for low sugar or no sugar labels.
At local nonprofits like PATH, which provide emergency assistance and food for people in need, say the changes won't affect the healthy foods they already provide.
I don't think the changes will affect the food pantry too much. We're still going to have the same product that we've always had. We've always focused on healthy foods, staples, so I don't think it'll affect too much what we're going to change.
But for those who rely on SNAP benefits, the change is more than just an adjustment. It can affect everyday choices.
I buy that type of stuff. I'm that type. I eat my little sugar and stuff here and there, and whatever. Like I said, for like dessert stuff like that, I don't overindulge.
And those items aren't just treats. They help fill gaps when food is limited.
I would really hate that, because I get food stamps myself, and so it would suck for me not to be able to go, because like that stuff helps me at times when I don't have anything to eat, or I don't have, I don't have food, like food to cook and stuff like that.
Officials urge families to stay informed, check with local pantries, and use SNAP wisely. In Tyler, Renee Estrada, CBS 19.
Yesterday, we wrapped up Women's History Month, and in a field once dominated by men, more women are stepping into key roles in meteorology. CBS 19's Jamie Hazard shares how 2 Texas National Weather Service leaders are helping change the forecast for the next generation.
For decades, meteorology has been a male-dominated field, but today, more women are not just entering the science, they're leading it.
I was always watching the Weather Channel, and it got to the point where I'd have these colored pencils and an atlas, and so I'd end up drawing my own radar on my own and kind of pretending I was on TV explaining it to absolutely nobody.
For Carly Kovacic, a science and operations officer at the National Weather Service in Shreveport, that childhood curiosity turned into a career.
It's definitely seemed like being the minority. I think just having other people, other women doing the same thing was really motivating for me.
That support system is something experts say is critical, especially in STEM fields where representation hasn't always been equal.
The number of females that I work with now has grown significantly. There's about 6 or 7 right now. And so we are seeing larger numbers of females wanting to join the Weather Service or just going into the field of meteorology.
Jennifer Dunn, a warning coordination meteorologist in Fort Worth, says she's seen the change firsthand.
I was the first female lead forecaster on station, and then I was the first female manager on station. And we're starting to see more and more females make their way up into the management's role.
And while both the field still comes with challenges from rigorous coursework to long hours, the message to young women is clear.
If that's where your passion lies, don't give up. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it.
We've got a lot of the same science background and education and knowledge, education, and can really kind of bring a unique perspective in some cases to the offices that they do work in.
Because for them, representation isn't just about today, it's about inspiring the next generation.
I think just seeing women in the job, performing the duties that I want to perform, and being able to just reach out to them and ask questions, I think that's carried me along the way.
That kind of visibility is helping pave the way, not just inside the workspace, but in classrooms and communities across the country.
Like when I walk into an elementary school, I kind of see kids, his eyes light up like, oh, this is a female, So our reach with some of the younger generation is very important, and we've been able to accomplish that.
As more women step into forecasting and leadership roles, they're not just predicting the weather, they're helping shape the future of science.
That's your East Texas headlines for today. I'm Ayana Aird.
Texas News Now is sponsored by Germania Insurance.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.